His return is drawing near.
SmokeHouseStudios.net, The Front Porch Show, a unique blend of current events and what they might mean, humbly seen through the eyes of God's Word, the Bible, in an old school front porch discussion with occasional guests, your input, and a guiding hand through Christ. Broadcasting from atop the front porch, it's SmokeHouseStudios.net's The Front Porch Show. Now, carefully blending more smoke goodness in each and every soundbite. Your host, Smokehouse.
Hey, hello, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, friends, wherever you may be across the globe, across the United States. Yo, SmokeHouse with you here, SmokeHouseStudios.net Front Porch Show, coming to you back out of Nashville, Tennessee. And I want to deeply apologize for not being with you last weekend. It was a crazy weekend. Had a lot of stuff going on and didn't get up here in time. And so I apologize, but thank y'all for staying with us. We're back May the 3rd, and this is a day that needs a show. We have got Brother Dave from Why Try Blaze on the program with us. So how you doing there, David?
What is going on, everybody? What's going on, Greg? How you doing today?
Doing pretty good, man. Been a crazy week, but we're going to dive into all of it. Now, David, the title of tonight's show is titled Posturing because we're seeing a lot of posturing movements being made that looks like conflict. We have Middle East issues that we're going to save to the tail end of the show. That will tie a ribbon on all this. China and Spain have made major moves this week, and we're going to break that down in detail as to what could possibly, allegedly, be the reason. And now we're having the issue within. We're trying to deport all of these criminal illegal aliens, and we are meeting resistance here. So we're seeing resistance between Israel, Iran, and Yemen and Gaza. We're going to be getting into the Pakistani/Indian war toward the end. They are seeing a resistance. Spain and China are seeing a resistance. And then our resistance here are the illegal aliens. And what is that actually about? Our devotion, we're going to save till the end of this show because it ties in with the whole Middle East conflict once we get to it. But David, man, what do you know about all of this deportation junk, man? What's on your mind?
Okay, so I would say 2 weeks ago, since we didn't have an episode last week, we touched on the Abrego Garcia situation, and there were a lot of facts and relevant information that we brought up during that show. But I want to give you guys kind of more accurate numbers, and I want you to have like numbers when people say things and about this illegal immigration things when it comes to people getting their due process, when it comes to people getting court dates and things like that. I want to give you guys numbers that you're going to be able to go back and lean on when people say these things, just to further kind of corroborate your idea of what's going on. Because the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability and the House Committee on Homeland Security released a report on insides from Border Patrol sector chiefs at the southwest border. Okay, so under Biden's president watch, there have been over 8 million migrant encounters nationwide, 6.7 million of which have been at the southwest border. So during Biden's presidency, 8 million illegal immigrants were brought into this country just over 4 years, of course, 6.7 million of which were at the southern border. And it goes on to say, worse yet, over 1.7 million known gotaways, illegal immigrants who have evaded Border Patrol, are now living in the interior of the United States without documentation and without having undergone any vetting by immigration officials. The serious national security concerns shared by Republicans have fallen on deaf ears, but maybe Democrats will listen to the men and women at the front lines of the border crisis. So just to give you an example, there are, let's say, right now in Donald Trump's term, the White House just released this 5 days ago. Promises made, promises kept. Border security achieved in fewer than 100 days. Since President Donald Trump took office, he and his administration have ushered in the most secure border in modern American history, and he didn't need legislation to do it. President Trump has made good on the promises he made on the campaign trail to usher in an unprecedented era of homeland security. So, if you go on to read in this article that was published by the White House, uh, promises kept. Illegal border encounters are down by 95%. Illegal immigrant gotaways, the top threat to public safety, are down by 99%. Okay, so we all remember when Biden was in office and he was saying, guys, I want to deal with the immigration issue, but I'm not able to do it because we have to pass legislation and we have to go through this process and that process. Oh, meanwhile, we're going to bring these illegal immigrants into the country and give them hotel rooms at the top hotels, about $500 a night, purposefully, because they understood when you do it that way, it will take 4 to 5, sometimes even longer years before you ever get a court date, let alone go to court. The system that was in place that Biden went around and ignored was ICE already had detainment facilities for when you come into this country illegally. They give you a bed, they give you a room, and you're there for about 4 to 5 months. You get a court date, you go to court, then they decide whether you stay or you go. Instead, Biden knowingly wanted to turn these illegal immigrants into voters and was hoping that whether this administration won, the Trump administration, or a Democrat administration, they were hoping that the 4 to 5 years would go by and these people would be able to continue to stay here and obviously turn them into voters. So I just want to point out the fact that you're going to have a lot of people who will say, it's wrong to deport illegal immigrants based on the fact that they are merely entering the country illegally. Well, number one, the majority of these people that say they're seeking asylum are not here specifically to seek asylum. The large majority were military-aged men, and I'm sure a lot of you saw the videos of the people that were coming across the border. A lot of the truck drivers, and we're going to get into that. You see these truck drivers at gas pumps pumping gas. They don't look like your regular truck driver. All of this is building a case for why not only illegal immigration needs to be cracked down on, and it needs to be taken seriously, and it has been by this Donald Trump administration, but what Biden did was actually treasonous, and it's actually basically trying to circumvent the United States Constitution as far as voting goes, because we all know they want to give them voting rights. And that's why this Real ID is such a problem for a lot of Democrats, because you would think, what would be the problem with going and getting an ID that basically confirms that you're a U.S. citizen? Therefore, that's why you're able to participate in elections and votes. It doesn't make any sense that somebody would have an opposition to that. But of course, the Democrats do, and mostly because it's Trump. So I'll go ahead and hand it back off to you.
And you're exactly right, because we're having these judges. Now, they're like district judges that are blocking various things in regards to this illegal alien process, and they have been arrested, they have been prosecuted. And just this week, we have a federal district judge, Jennifer Thurston, sends out an order banning Border Patrol from arresting illegal aliens without warrant. We have another judge. And Stephen Miller comes out and says, look, exactly what you said, David. He tweeted, it takes days or weeks to obtain a single warrant for a single criminal search. Requiring a warrant for Border Patrol to conduct an interdiction of an illegal alien is an act of legal insurrection against national sovereignty. Never in history of our country or any country has a criminal justice warrant been required to stop a foreign trespasser from invading your territory. Congress indeed has explicitly excluded all such procedures for alien removals. This is madness, and he's right. And so the question here is, we understand they want them here so that they can vote, but now under the Real ID, like you're saying, once that's implemented, they're not going to be able to vote. And so it seems that their purpose in wanting to keep them here now shines a light on a new focus. And keeping with Stephen Miller, he was on with our press secretary, and he basically said it like it was, David. Here we go. This is him exposing the enemy within.
Americans want to hear from Kamala Harris is an apology for joining Joe Biden. Remember, she was the border czar, joining Joe Biden in aiding and abetting the invasion of our country. And we're never going to stop talking about this because what they did to this country is unforgivable. It is an eternal stain on the Democrat Party. Every day we read another story. Every day we arrest another alien they let into this country who raped a child, who beat a woman within an inch of her life, who murdered a mom, who murdered a dad, who trafficked drugs into this country, who trafficked fentanyl into this country, who are responsible for dead and slaughtered Americans. And I don't know what's broken in the Washington press corps, that none of that moves them emotionally. The only thing that gets them exercised is, do we need to have more trials for terrorist supporters? We need to have more trials for gangbangers. We need to have more trials for illegal alien invaders, even though Congress and the Constitution clearly say that you can expel invaders and illegal aliens quickly, efficiently, and properly. This president has literally saved America, and I could not be prouder. I could not be prouder, as I know Caroline feels the same way, to come every single day to this building where we have a leader sitting in office whose first, last, and every thought is the safety, prosperity, security, and sovereignty of the citizens. That's an important word, people. Citizens of this republic.
And the hypocrisy just blows my mind, David, because here we have these illegal aliens killing Americans at nauseum, and the Democrats could care less. But you remember that one knee that went on the neck of George Floyd, and allegedly that knee is what killed George Floyd. And a nation of Democrats just was upheavaled and was in solidarity with George Floyd. One death, okay? But yet these illegal aliens are killing so many Americans. Do you see the hypocrisy?
Oh, absolutely. And, the Laken Riley Act. If I believe correctly, most Democrats actually voted against the Laken Riley Act. And I can go ahead and get a Google search after I let you guys know, so that way we'll be able to touch back on it at the end of the show. So it's all correct. But recently, California wanted to introduce a bill that would make it you would not have to get registered on the National Registry of Sex Offenders if you rape a 16 or 14-year-old child. And that is insane. That is a bill that it either is going through the House in California right now, or it was already passed. And this was after they decided they won't prosecute violent criminals, gangbangers who come into this country and commit violent crimes. The worst that they would ever do is ship them out of the country back over the border and let them come right back into the country. And yes, that did happen. So, with the whole Laken Riley Act, they acted like it didn't happen. It wasn't a concern of theirs, and they ignored it. They turned a blind eye. It's disgusting. And like Stephen Miller said, there might be partisan issues like insider trading. You can say it's on both sides. Corruption. You can say there's people on both sides that are corrupt. But when it comes to this immigration issue, Democrats have to own it. They are going to have to own it forever, for the rest of the time. And nobody's going to stop talking about it. It is a ginormous stain on the Democratic Party that even their own voters cannot get behind because, well, you have the crazy lunatics, right, who are going to vote blue no matter what. But the people who are genuinely trying to wake up or have woken up, whether it be against their will or not, are starting to see this isn't the party that it used to be 10 years ago, 12 years ago, even before Obama. So And let's also not forget, Obama deported a lot of illegal immigrants. So it's pretty hypocritical for them to say that what Donald Trump is doing wrong, invoking the Alien and Invasion Act, is wrong of him. Yet Obama did pretty similar things when it comes to immigration. So that's just all I have to say on that part.
Well, and the funny part about all this is they are literally exposing themselves for what side they're batting for, you know. And you would think in their minds they would want to be like, whoa, we don't need to really show our hand right now, show
Well,
our poker face.
Well, you got to think about it like this. They tried to not only throw Donald Trump under the prison with 34 felonies that are miscellaneous at best, but they also attempted to take his life from him multiple times. I mean, he's tried to play fair and play ball as much as he can, but now, I've told you this in private. They've awoken a sleeping bear essentially. The bear was trying to play nice, but he is done now. And you got to add Tom Homan to that list. Pam Bondi, she's come out and actually had a lot. She's had her face in the media a lot recently when it comes to this immigration stuff. It's good to see her back in the press because we hadn't seen her as much recently. And we saw where the White House actually lined up all of the illegal immigrants who had been arrested and deported for their violent crimes. And basically, all the media outlets like NBC, ABC, CNN, if they wanted to do a White House press briefing or cover the White House for that day, they had to stand in front of those signs. And CNN actually, believe this or not, this is gonna blow you guys' mind. They blurred the faces that were on those posters behind them. I kid you not. They blurred
Wow.
their faces. So, like you said, they're showing their cards. They really are. And I almost wonder if there's something, if they're just almost planning to betray this country in a way that we haven't seen before, in a big way.
I think that they are because we have said it on past shows. The purpose in bringing them over here is to have the enemy within, to attack us here within. And I'll describe what I mean. I'll circle back to that when we get to the end of the show. But Stephen Miller, we've said this in podcast all the time, and we have been called conspiracy theorist or you name it. But now Stephen Miller came out and said exactly the truth.
An FBI assessment that was unclassified that said that the Maduro regime is using and planning to use trained Nicaragua terrorists to carry out assassination plots on American soil. Now, very few in this room covered that. I'll let you all ask yourselves why you didn't cover it and why your editors didn't assign that story to you. Something I think you should think about on your own. But this is a earth-shattering piece of news. The Biden administration imported the terrorist army that our own FBI assesses is planning assassination strikes on American soil against critics of the Maduro regime. Those are the terrorists that President Trump is finding and apprehending that our Democrat judges and Democrat activists are trying to keep on U.S. soil. Train de Aragua has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. MS-13 has the same legal status as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. These are foreign terrorists operating on our soil. And our gratitude to El Salvador for agreeing to take custody of these terrorists is immense.
Now, what did we say, David? It was 2 weeks ago, man, when we did the show 2 weeks ago, and maybe it was the third week ago. I can't remember, but we were talking about immigration, and what did I tell you? I told you that they are all rallying around a point to use to move for impeachment. Did I not?
Oh, absolutely. In that, the guy that has actually brought those forward has come out as a not a very good person. I'll just leave it at that. I don't know what you've got planned to share with our listeners, but
Oh,
uh,
I've got it.
okay, yeah, go ahead. Let them know it's bad.
Well, his name is Shri Trandadar. Shri Trandadar. And he's one of our congressmen. And here he is.
Donald Trump has already done real damage to our democracy, but defying a unanimous 9-0 Supreme Court ruling, that has to be the final straw. It's time we impeach Donald J. Trump. The court said the wrongfully deported Kilmer Garcia must be allowed to return and receive due process. Trump ignored it. He ignored the Constitution. He ignored the very checks and balances that keep our democracy intact. This isn't an isolated incident. It's part of a dangerous, deliberate pattern. That's why today I introduced a resolution to impeach Donald J. Trump, outlining 7 articles of impeachment.
Wow. So he constitutionally, the executive branch took an oath to protect us from enemies foreign and domestic. And the Supreme Court bowed to the Democrat Party. And Trump openly said it. He said, well, if the El Salvadorian president wants to send them back, I will follow the order and I will let them in and I will reprocess them the right way and I'll send them back. But the El Salvador president said in a meeting with Trump at the White House at a press conference, I'm not going to send this gang member back to the United States. So Trump's like, well, okay, well, I'm not defying an order. If he sends him back, I'll let him come in. But if the president's not sending him back, I'm not going over there and kidnapping a El Salvadorian citizen. So they're spinning all of this. And here we go, the impeachment. But he was saying Trump ignored a Supreme Court ruling and he is defying laws. Well, this Trandadar, several years ago, he defied laws that we have against animal cruelty.
Information now on one of the leading Democratic candidates for governor here in Michigan. Sri Tandadar is responding to new reports regarding a company he owned 8 years ago that's now bankrupt. The allegations involved mistreatment of 170 dogs and monkeys used for testing of new drugs. The company, Anaclin Preclinical Services, used the animals to test drugs prior to FDA approval. Tanadar told 7 Action News last week that the testing was for side effects and that the animals would get higher blood pressure and some rash. Tanadar says the animals were not abandoned. He says they were fed and cared for by staff. But he also claims his attorneys went to court with a motion to have those animals sold as assets to lower his company's debt. Tanadar told 7 Action News investigator Jim Kurtzner today that his attorneys filed a motion to make a point and that the motion was withdrawn a short time later. Asked why he didn't mention this during his interview last week, Tanadar responded, "It was not at the top of my mind." He also says opponents are using this issue as a smear campaign in the race for Michigan governor.
News 7 Michigan. Well, David, those who live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, should they, brother?
No, absolutely not. That's funny. He said it's a smear campaign. Well, that's all that it's ever been against Donald Trump was a smear campaign. And that's what this is. That's what he's trying to do is essentially build a smear campaign against Donald Trump. When, like you said, he lives in a glass house trying to throw stones and boulders. Also going back to Maduro, he recently, I'm not sure how many of you know this, he's actually fighting to not lose his seat as president of Venezuela. And the UN actually ruled that he must step down and hold an election because he's basically saying, no, we're not doing an election. The UN ruled that he has to. And so that was 24 hours ago. I just wanted to give you guys an update on that because it's very recent. I actually didn't know about that before we started the show. But getting back to this guy, it almost sounds like, they mentioned his debt. It almost sounds like he needed a check, if you know what I'm saying. Because yeah, he was running out of money, and the Democrats said, hey, we see you're running on some hard times, and we really need somebody to push this. Even if it comes out wrong, we just need the idea of impeachment to get out in people's minds. People need to start thinking about impeachment. So even if you get thrown under the bus, here's a check. Offshore companies, we know how money laundering works. So that's what it looks like to me. I'm going to be honest with you, Greg.
It is. And Pam Bondi, our attorney general, she was in the press conference with his cabinet the other day, And she said something at the tail end of this that was very interesting. She was talking about what these illegal aliens were doing as far as the drugs and the fentanyl and all of that. And listen to what she said here at the end.
Laced with something else. They don't know what they're taking. They think they're buying a Tylenol or an Adderall and a Xanax, and it's laced with fentanyl, and they're dropping dead. And no longer because of you, what you've done. ATF, since you've been in office, President, along with DOJ agencies, seized 14,500 guns off the streets. Why aren't people reporting that? 651,000 rounds of ammo. That's up 151% from 2024. That's keeping America safe. We've rescinded death penalty. We are now seeking the death penalty on cases. I'm signing death warrants.
She says, we're now seeking the death penalty and I am signing death warrants. That's pretty powerful, David.
No, it is. And I don't know when you want to get into the Tom Homan and what he said. Do you have that clip ready to go?
Man, I don't.
Okay, that's okay. That's okay. That's okay. I'll explain it. So basically, a reporter asked Tom Homan, you know, with everything that happened in the Biden presidency, and you guys are basically saying that he's been a traitor to this country, and other senators and congressmen who have participated with all the. And I don't know if you guys heard about the HHS. RFK Jr. saying that the HHS was the world's largest organization in human trafficking. So all of these things are being described by our administration. And a reporter says, so are you guys going to start arresting people? Are you guys going to start going after the people that were involved with these? And all that Tom Homan had to say was, wait till you see what's coming. He didn't say anything else. Wait till you see what's coming. So now you've got Tom Homan talking about going after these people in the HHS and other organizations who were human trafficking, child trafficking, at that. But then you've also got was that Caroline Levitt? That's who it sounded like. That was speaking.
No, that was Pam Bondi.
Oh, Pam Bondi. Okay. And Pam Bondi saying this, and then recently talking about sending U.S. citizens to El Salvadorian prisons. It's like they're building they're painting a picture for us to understand, and building on these things. So when these reports come out, and maybe that's got something to do with this Epstein list not coming out. When the Epstein list does come out, and this HHS list comes out, and names start dropping, they are going to have to be able to send these people somewhere. So now they're getting it all prepped. They're getting it all ready for what's coming. That's what it seems like. It really does to me, Greg.
James O'Keefe had a warning that I'm going to share in a moment. And he may be alluding to that very thing that you had said. But the intents of, over the last couple of weekends, we've been seeing in all of our major cities a lot of peaceful protest of, these liberals going out and protesting this deportation and all that. But the deportations are still happening, and they're happening quite a bit now. Over there in where was it? It slips my mind. But anyway, there was a club, I think in Texas, San Antonio maybe, where ICE went in and arrested just a whole slew of them. But they are happening, okay? And it's almost like the Democrats are losing their grip on the purpose of why they brought them here in the first place. And we had the Illinois governor coming out this week, giving a press conference. And listen to what he said.
Never before in my life have I called for mass protests, for mobilization, for disruption. But I am now. These Republicans cannot know a moment of peace. They have to understand that we will fight their cruelty with every megaphone and microphone that we have. We must castigate them on the soapbox and then punish them at the ballot box.
Okay, to which Elon Musk responded on X with one word. He said, crazy. Is that from Musk? What do you think, Haley?
So Pritzker went on to say,
but we know what they really mean when they're calling for all-out protests, right? They are wanting the Democrat base to actually start getting violent. period. End of discussion. Okay. They mask it under those guiles, but their media, David, keeps them so fired up all the time. In my opinion, they're trying to light that one loose cannon fuse on their base to get it started. Is that what it sounds like?
Well, yeah, I could definitely see that. And I looked up this guy, JB Pritzker is his name. And I'm reading a CNN article that I just pulled up, and he is labeling the Trump administration as tyrants and traitors. Okay. So these are the same people that want to basically take away your rights as a citizen, your rights as a woman, your rights as a man, and swap them all, confuse them all, make them completely different than what they should be, and then call you a traitor for not agreeing with what they're saying. Um, it's blowing my mind that they don't even try to address the issues that are going on. Like I said, the HHS, human trafficking. You've got, oh goodness, Jasmine Crockett going crazy. She is another one of those that is just running around, and I guarantee she's getting a check from the Democratic Party because she says whatever they want them to say. Honestly, she has no rebuttal. She has no spine to stand up and say, no, I'm not going to do that because that's wrong. And we're seeing that from the Democratic Party in general right now. And his entire press conference that he held this on was fighting for our freedoms. Now, what do you think those quote unquote freedoms are, Greg? In my mind, what I'm hearing when he says fighting for our freedoms, he's talking about people who want to do bad things to children, people who want to bring bad people into this country and not be told no, essentially. While at the same time, they want to get rid of your freedom of speech. They want to get rid of your Second Amendment rights. So it's very hypocritical, and everybody listening to this show can obviously see what's going on, right? We're kind of preaching to the choir when it comes to that. But for all the people who haven't woke up, I don't think there is any way that they will wake up until they realize that what they think is happening, this country that they believe that they're helping, it's not helping at all, and in fact, it's going down a very dire and sinister path. And I'll go ahead and hand it back off to you, Greg.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head because I was going to say that very thing. He's screaming that these illegal aliens deserve their right, but yet I cannot carry a firearm. I cannot exercise my Second Amendment right in that state. And it's like you said, man, the hypocrisy knows no bounds. Okay. Now, I want to dive into this executive order. This is an attorney. Now, this is a 100% left wing view. Okay. Her name is Eliza Orleans, and she is going in breakdown over this executive order that Trump has just signed. Now she's putting the liberal spin on it, David, and with the information that you have and I have, we're going to break this down to what this means because it's showing something, okay? Trump is doing this for a purpose. But here is Eliza Orleans, the left wing view of this executive order, where he's going to implement more power to the police and allowing the military to assist, not to come in and do anything, but to assist if need be. And of course, the left wing loonies are calling this a martial law and insurrection, and he's going to suspend habeas corpus. But anyway, here is the executive order from the left wing lens.
I think one of the executive orders that Trump signed today might be his most sinister one yet, and that's really saying something. I'm Eliza Orleans, career public defender for 15 years in Manhattan, and I have to break this down for you. So today's executive order is called Strengthening and Unleashing America's Law Enforcement to Pursue Criminals and Protect Innocent Citizens. Trump is acting like safe communities are the impetus behind this and empowering law enforcement to firmly police dangerous criminal behavior. But that's not at all the reality of what this executive order does. In this executive order, he's not just unleashing the police, which he is doing, but he's dismantling reforms, criminalizing equity, and militarizing local law enforcement all at once. First, Trump's order frames progressive reforms as the real problem, things like anti-bias training and limits on use of force, as opposed to police misconduct and brutality. He says cities need to unleash aggressive policing and stop harmful and illegal equity policies. He wants to replace any efforts that make policing fairer or more accountable and replace them with unchecked force. In Section 2, this order creates a legal defense fund for officers who might get sued based on their official actions. Meaning, if a cop kills someone, don't worry, the federal government will defend them, no questions asked. Section 3 basically guts consent decrees, and those are the agreements that the DOJ uses to fix unconstitutional policing. So if a police department was found guilty of unconstitutional abuse, this order says set them free. Section 4 of this order says that they should increase the provision of excess military and national security assets in local jurisdictions. What does that mean? It means your neighborhood may become a war zone. They're going to militarize the Section 5 is the most dangerous of them all. It says that the Department of Justice should prioritize prosecution of any state or local officials who willfully direct the obstruction of criminal law prohibiting law enforcement from carrying out their necessary duties, or who engage in discrimination or civil rights violations under the guise of diversity, equity, and inclusion. This means they could prosecute local elected officials, governors, mayors, city council members, whoever they felt was not doing the thing that Trump wanted them to do. This is so dangerous. This is not public safety. This is not rule of law. This is political revenge. This is authoritarianism. This is terrifying. And then finally, Section 6, that Homeland Security Task Force protecting American people against invasion, to coordinate and advance the objectives of this order. And this will help the Trump administration crack down on communities within this country who Trump doesn't like. This is not about public safety. This is about control. This is about militarization and expansion of policing. This is about silencing reform. This is potentially about Trump laying the groundwork to invoke something that strongly resembles martial law. We have to fight back because the stakes could not be higher. So if you found this breakdown helpful, please make sure.
So basically, they're spinning it that if these people do not adhere to Trump's agenda, well, he's going to go after them and he's going to exercise the ultimate military / police control of martial.
Can I throw myself in here real quick, Greg? Because this just fired me up a little bit. I'm going to be so honest with you because
Yeah.
with what she is saying, okay, she is completely ignoring the fact that states like New York, California, Colorado have absolutely allowed illegal immigrants to take over. Not only illegal immigrants, but just violent offenders in the city who live there. Willingly allow them to get away with violent crimes all the time. This is what happens when you have DAs who refuse to prosecute. This is what happens when you have lawmakers who allow crimes to not be considered crimes anymore and lower their offenses. This is what happens. She's painting a picture as though Donald Trump wants to invoke martial law, when in reality, we know this doesn't happen in southern states. The worst southern state that you'll have this problem in will be Florida, okay? Because theft is pretty prevalent in Florida right now. But there's specific states that he is targeting with this, okay? And we all can see it. And she wants to paint it as though he wants to create martial law because it's all opinion based and there aren't people who are getting mugged and knifed and gunned down in the street just for their purse and their wallet. Okay, it's sick. It's disgusting. Businesses are closing in California and New York, which, by the way, that hurts the citizens of these cities, right? When you have CVS, when you have Walmart, when you have Walgreens who don't want to open business and actually close their business fronts in these cities that were making them a lot of money, but they can't do it anymore because theft is so prevalent, and you have prosecutors who refuse to prosecute even when the laws exist. If they're not even changed, okay, the laws are in there. They will willingly choose not to prosecute. Okay, this is just another, that other guy talked about smear campaign. This is smear campaign 101. This is like textbook smear campaign, and it fires me up because this is another reason why Democrats lose elections. They try to paint pictures and then they only tell half truth. Yes, he is empowering state and local law enforcement. Yes, he is advocating for the legal defense of law enforcement officers. That's because woke DAs prosecute these police officers who are going into these situations not knowing what they're going into, willing to risk their lives, okay? And then when they do their job, they're prosecuted and called criminals, okay? And she even brought up the fact of public, or not, I'm sorry, not public, police brutality. Okay, we all can identify that there are bad cops, but there are many more good cops than there are bad cops. We can sit here and debate this all day. But the fact that you want to paint the police force as nothing but a bunch of bad people who are out here arresting people because they dropped their lollipop on the ground and it got a little dirty and they stuck it back in their mouth. Okay, it's blowing my mind when you have people who are losing their life and losing their livelihoods from theft, murder, people who straight up commit suicide because they can't deal with this stuff anymore. They can't. It's blowing my mind, and this is why the Democrats lose elections and why they will probably lose the next election. Okay, that's it. That's all. I was just fired up, and I had to throw that out there. Greg, go ahead. You got it back.
Hey, man, brother, I could not have said that better myself. That deserves 2 claps.
Woo!
Yeah, that was awesome. There's nothing more that needs to be said, man. You hit the nail on the head. That is exactly right. See, they're spinning it to fit their narrative. And now, grant you, that is a concern that we'll have to keep an eye on, right? If it was to be used nefarious in that way, let's say Trump actually was a Hitler type, that would be dangerous. But, you need to talk to your father in law because I saw a video on TikTok and it was a truck driver that had recently, within the week, gotten pulled over and gotten DOT'd here in Tennessee. And, when you get DOT'd, you get the whole printout of the inspection and it'll show whether you had violations or not. And, was it raining? Was he wearing his seatbelt? All of those things are on that printout that the DOT gives you after the inspection. And he showed it. He had it in his hand and showed it on camera. The state of Tennessee has now added to their DOT inspection with a little box to check mark that says, was the driver able to speak English? And so, Trump has come out with that other executive order now saying that all commercial drivers must be able to speak and read English. And if not, they are to be put out of service. So here we go. This is going to put a lot of truck driving jobs out of service, and it's going to open the market for more Americans to fill those positions driving our trucks. And next time you chat with your father-in-law, ask him if any one of their drivers have turned in any recent DOT deals where that's actually written on it, because that guy showed it, on the camera. It was on there.
Yeah, so I've actually got this bill pulled up, and I'll go ahead and read some of it for you. It's longer than the other bill where it talks the police force, but we're not going to go over the whole thing. I'm just going to go ahead and give you the gist of it. Enforcing common sense rules of the road for America's truck drivers. Okay, this was signed April 28th, 2025, so 5 days ago. By the authority vested in me as president by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered. America's truck drivers are essential to the strength of our economy, the security of our nation, and the livelihoods of the American people. Every day, truck drivers perform the demanding and dangerous work of transporting the nation's goods to businesses, customers, and communities safely, reliably, and efficiently. Proficiency in English, which I designated as our official national language in Executive Order 14224 of March 1st, 2025, designating English as the official language of the United States, should be a non-negotiable safety requirement for professional drivers. They should be able to read and understand traffic signs, communicate with traffic safety, border patrol, agricultural checkpoints, and cargo weight limit station officers. Drivers need to provide feedback to their employers and customers and receive related directions in English. This is common sense. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and run it to right there because I actually agree 100,000% with this bill. I think it's, like he said, a common sense bill. And it kind of makes you wonder why it wasn't passed a long time ago, right? Like when you think of all the things you got to do to pass DOT, all the lights that need to be working in an order, yet there wasn't a law that says you should be able to read and understand traffic signs and communicate with traffic safety, border patrol, agricultural checkpoints, and your cargo weight limit. It blows my mind that that wasn't already put in a bill, right? Because it opens up the door for national terrorism, anyways. But not to say terrorists can't learn English, right? But this definitely makes it harder on them, slows them down. And let's say somebody's English is, a little broken, or like maybe it was rushed to get in here. Well, they're probably going to get a citation for that and probably can be pulled into the scale house where they check your truck, your trailer, everything going on, right? Your whole deal. So, I actually really support this. I think it is a common sense bill, and I think Donald Trump knows exactly what he's doing when it comes to this specific bill.
I, I totally agree with you.
Man.
I do. I totally agree with you. I mean, this should be and should have been part of the CDL, DOT, you call it CSA 2010. That should have been in all the time. And I do agree with that. I mean, I mean, how many YouTube videos? I mean, I'm not trying to plug the channel, although I do like it, but get on YouTube and go to Bonehead Truckers, man. Bonehead Truckers. And what he does is people will send him video that they have taken where they have literally witnessed truck crashes or trucks running over something in real time. And it's always somebody that jumps out of the truck that has crashed it or ran over something wearing flip flops that cannot speak English. They can't read the signs. I mean, here we are under a scrutiny. Okay, I'm going to get on my soapbox now, David.
Let's hear it. Let's hear it. I'm ready for it.
Here we are under scrutiny, the American citizen, to dot every T and cross every I. And I have got a friend who wears his seatbelt, but the height of his upper body, the seatbelt cuts into his neck. Okay? So he takes the strap that goes diagonal and he tucks it up under his arm. He's still wearing the seatbelt. It's just up under his arm to keep it off of his neck. He has been pulled over twice for improper use of a seatbelt by the DOT. And it's like, what? The scrutiny that us Americans are under with the DOT, and then yet you've got these foreigners over here that can't speak the language and they have issues with other things. Their trucks half the time, aren't compliant with DOT regulations. And you see those trucks just breeze right on by the scale all the time while you're pulled in being DOT'd. It's just like the TSA at the airport. They will strip search a little old lady while they let these illegal aliens and those that do look nefarious pass right on by. It boggles my mind. And the only conclusion that I can come to is this is for a purpose. These Democrats and these who want to destroy this nation have implemented these things for a purpose. You put the weight on the American citizen to rob them of their self-esteem, to rob them of their ambition, to rob them of everything that you can that gives them it's the whole demasculization of America that we've been going through. To dumb down the man and take away the masculinity because they're afraid for a real man to stand up, right? And so you just demasculize everything and you bog people down with so much weight that their desire and ambition is just gone. And then they can come in with these type of nefarious plans And this is how they gain ground, because now not only are there not very more men in the world to stand up against this, we don't have the ambition to. That's why they gauge the salaries, and they gauge the taxes, and they gauge the prices of food and all that. They gauge all of that consistent to the fact that it's that dangled carrot right in front of your face. You can every now and then nibble at that carrot. They just keep it at that level just to keep you in control, while they allow those that they bring in to just run wide open, do what they want, and then live off of your tax dollars. So this is all a plan. And this is why I've titled the show Posturing, because this is moving into something serious now, because it's happening to all nations. It's just this is how we are experiencing it in ours here in America. And with the moves of these other nations that we're going to move to, it is showing the posturing and why America is being placed the way that we are, because we are were a strong nation, and it has allowed these other nations to move. So before we go there, I do want to share. It's very quick. It's like 11 seconds. But James O'Keefe, he used to be with Project Veritas, by the way. Uh, he won his lawsuit against Project Veritas this week, but he is still independently now. He's going out and he's unveiling corruption from all these corrupt individuals, right? And he came out with a message. Apparently, what he has that he is going to be releasing next week is extremely dangerous. And here's what he had to say.
I'm going dark. I'm not suicidal. Pray for me. This one scares me, guys.
And that's all he said. We have no idea what he's about to turn loose, but he's going to turn it loose. So, David, man, I got on my soapbox now.
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. Because I look at it from the mechanic's perspective, and I think all of us have a horror story about, a truck driver that you either saw or were personally associated with that did something really dumb in traffic, right? That you're like, wow, that was definitely not a smart move. And then they get, like you said, they get out of the truck and they're wearing flip flops. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. I've got a story. I won't share it on here, but I've got a story where you get into an accident and then boom, like you said, sandals. So, but yeah, I enjoyed you getting on your soapbox. I really enjoyed that. You got to do that more often.
Well, thank you, man.
Yep.
Well, the big question of the show is why then, with all this that's going on, and we're seeing problems with tariffs, we're seeing problems with our food prices and everything that I had brought up, where they're using that to keep us idle, to keep us dumbed down, to keep us under their thumb, right? So, in this Trump administration, why is the White House indifferent to the supply chain breaking down? We are having port issues, we're having tariff issues, yet, Trump and his administration are promising prosperity. Let's go back and let's look at history here, because it's not about jobs. With jobs or factories, our ports, our economy, this is appearing to be behaviors that happened right before World War II. Now, I'm not going to be here and say Trump is a Hitler and blah, blah, blah. And that's not what I'm saying here, okay? Let's forget the leaders. Let's forget Trump and Hitler. Let's just look at the two countries and the parallels and the similarities, okay? We hear that these jobs are going to be coming back and we're going to be self-reliant. We have protections promised for American voters. And we have to step back and say, well, okay, if that's the case, where is the focus mainly pointing at right now? Well, the focus right now with all these problems that we're dealing with, the focus is on semiconductors, military grade electronics, steel and defense parts, pharmaceuticals, AI software, and batteries. Not just anywhere, folks, but in strategic areas. Now, check this out. We know that Texas, big in oil, it's the oil and the defense, and our ports, of course. We have Arizona that's in charge of like chips, aerospace. We have Ohio and Pennsylvania, which is like a major rail hub of the industrial corridor, right? We know that Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, that whole eastern coastline is a major port access. You know, it makes no sense for us consumers that these moves that are being made and these focuses that are being looked at are not consumer first. These moves, they are wartime logistical moves. So let's take a look at Germany. Germany, they were beginning to rebuild Germany from 1933 to 1939. Okay, they were big into building up their steel, to building up their arms, building up chemicals, and building up their infrastructure. And Germany was going to be independent. Unemployment dropped, factories began to start booming, and then later we know this powerful machine, it then waged war, and it used the rebuild as this forced labor for the war. And even then, American factories stopped whatever they were producing and started producing wartime material, such as, the sewing machine company Singer. They started making 1911s. And if you could find a World War II Singer 1911, man, that thing is worth bukus of thousands of dollars. But, we're seeing the same thing. So this move that we're seeing right now here in the United States to make these autonomous drones, we're focusing on chips. We're looking into a missile guidance system. You remember Trump was saying the other day that America needs to have. Why are we focusing on building up all of these battery factories and these battery manufacturers, folks, if we're not going to electric cars? Because no one's buying electric cars. So what is the purpose of this buildup? We have military vehicles being built, independent in case of a global conflict is what we are reaching for, right? To be energy and self-sufficient. So let's look. All right. We've got sky high prices on our goods right now. And we know the issues with the tariffs that's making everyday goods uncomfortable and unaffordable. It's almost like the consumption economy is collapsing, but we're seeing military budgets are soaring and they're on the rise. We have AI and biotech chips, all dual use technologies are all now being federally subsidized. We've got the buyer isn't now you and us, the consumer, it's the government. It's the big war machine. And it's almost like it's about revitalizing the economy for the American people is no longer, they're no longer able to sell us on that. It's almost like it's this machine that they are trying to build up. So why do these things make food prices skyrocket, but yet they don't address jobs taken by automation? See, the economy isn't being built for us, folks. It's being built for this conflict that we are about to enter. Germany did not industrialize because they were evil. They did it for world control. And when they got a lot of this control, they turned that power on their own people. That's all we're saying here. So today, we are struggling with China. We're struggling with all these protests, and our our purpose is to restore this nation. But the military industrial complex and those that seek to do evil against us, that apparently are still in power, that we're trying to deal with in the first 100 days, they're building up this war machine. And it's shaping up to be a lot like Germany. And as we have been seeing with the situations with Israel and Gaza and Yemen now we're involved in Yemen. It sparked flares with Iran. Now we have got Iran threatening us. We have got India and Pakistan fixing to lock horns. China obviously is having problems with Spain, and we'll get into that insight in a minute. But David, I appreciate that time to kind of get that out. I want your opinion on how that looks.
Yeah. So, we all know. I don't know how many of you probably know what a proxy war is, but essentially, with the Pakistan-India situation, that's what we're facing right now with between China and Pakistan, and or I'm sorry, yeah, China and Pakistan and us and India. Okay, so and then we recently signed a minerals rights deal with Ukraine. This was just a couple days ago. Now, the United States is a little bit famous for proxy wars, right? Fighting a war with another country uh, through another country, like a smaller country. That's essentially what a proxy war is. And like Greg is saying, the situation with Iran has only been escalating. There, it doesn't seem that it's going to get better anytime soon. And by the way, let's not forget about Israel and Palestine. Okay, so all of these things, and another thing I want to bring up too is the fact that we pulled out of the UN. Okay, we no longer associate with the UN, and for good reason. You know, we were funding about 80% of the UN in general, and that was Trump's biggest gripe. But who knows? Maybe there was something more to what Trump was doing by making that move. It does not look as though we are going to get another free trade agreement between America or I'm sorry, Mexico and Canada, because they are in talks with trading with China right now. Um, so the world, essentially, the world's economic powerhouses will remain the same, but they're shifting on who they're relying on. We've just signed a huge deal with India. Um, what I feel like there's something I'm missing here. The Europe, and China are going to be investing in each other. Which go figure, right? Who could have seen that coming? Total sarcasm right there, by the way. So all these things are building up, like Greg's saying. You know, we're not saying that 100% it's identical to what happened in Germany, because we all know World War II started because of Treaty of Versailles. Okay, but as far as, I wouldn't say that we're isolationists right now, but we are definitely pulling out of all the things that kind of helped us keep everything at bay around the world. And part of the reason we were able to keep things at bay was because we, the taxpayers, were paying all this money for foreign entities and agencies. So going forward, like you said, Greg, I'm interested to see what Trump's next move is, because we can kind of see, we can build a little bit of a picture here and get an idea, but we don't necessarily know specifically what's coming. There's a lot of behind the scenes things going on right now. And so everybody needs to be ready. I'm not trying to scare anybody, right? We want to keep you guys aware that these things are happening, and the only way you're going to hear about these things is if you go out and actively seek to hear about these things. Otherwise, you won't ever know about it, and you'll just hear about local crime that is usually portrayed in a different way than what actually happened, right? If you can kind of see where I'm getting at with that. So, Greg, I'll hand it back off to you, but just my whole thing on what we're seeing with the world shaping right now is we just don't know. You got to think India is the same country that was planning on signing BRICS with Russia and China about a year ago, okay? And now they are hard investing into the United States. Well, why is that? We don't necessarily know, right? But there's reasons for these things that at some point hopefully we'll learn, but we just don't know these answers right now.
I totally agree. And I guess I should have prefaced right before I shared these facts. This is not something that just surfaced in the last year or two, folks. I would take it back to 9/11. You know, this scenario right here that I just shared has been going on for many, 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 many years. It's just that the engine has been built so large and it has so much power, you can't just flip a switch and turn it off. You know, it's going to take some work to slow it down to a stop. Okay.
And I
And
want to throw something in here too, real quick, Greg. You were talking
okay.
about autonomous jobs, right? That's gonna be a whole nother thing, right? Because the trucks that drive themselves, they've come out, they're in use. Going forward, fast food workers will be robots. Yeah, there's gonna be a lot of jobs that are replaced with autonomous robots, and we're gonna have to figure out a way for people to make money, people to earn an honest living that isn't communism, right? So anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there for the listeners.
Well, you're right. And I think this is what this whole real ID is about because you know, if you read some of the plans of what this beast system the Bible talks about is rising, everybody's going to have a social credit score, just like a financial credit score. And as long as you are bowing to this beast system and bowing to the government, your social score will remain high, and you'll be able to function, you know, in society. And their goal is to do that, is to have everything be run by machine and you just sit at home and draw a government check and do what you're told. And I believe that this real ID, I've been wanting to do a show in depth on the real ID. Maybe next week, that's when I'll do it. But I'm seeing this real ID shaping up to be something like a mark of the beast. And they're moving forward with this, and they're doing it in other countries as well. Here is the latest going on with India and Pakistan.
Pakistan has credible intelligence that India intends carrying out military action against Pakistan in the next 24 to 36 hours on the pretext of baseless and concocted allegations of involvement in the Pahalgam incident. Indian self-assumed hubristic role of judge, jury, and executioner in the region is reckless and vehemently rejected. Pakistan reiterates that any such military adventurism by India would be responded to assuredly and decisively. The international community must remain alive to the reality that the onus of escalatory spiral and its ensuing consequences shall squarely lie with India.
Okay, of course, that was probably from the Pakistani view. Okay, that was from Newsweek. That clip was, but conflicts in India and Pakistan have started up. Now we have got one of the cabinet members in Europe, I would say England, the parliament or whatever they call it over there, right? Um, coming out and stating basically, in a nutshell, they are posturing for war.
And as this House would expect, Britain will play a leading role. With, if necessary, and together with others, boots on the ground and planes in the air. Mr. Speaker, it is right that Europe do the heavy lifting to support peace on our continent. But to succeed, this effort must also have strong US backing.
And as we know, the Bible says that when they say peace, then comes sudden destruction. So, you know, we'll have to keep our eyes on that as well. But, okay, so David, we're starting to see the rumblings. Now, the Bible talks about that being wars and rumors of wars in the last day signs. earthquakes and all of that. And we've got that one preacher, Brandon, I can't remember his last name, but, he's prophesying a major earthquake up around Oregon, all the way down in through the Gay Bay over there in San Francisco. So, um, we're starting to see all of these things begin to surface. But the biggest thing on the agenda, David, is China. China. The tariffs. A lot of these nations are kind of falling in line with these tariffs, but it's China that is the big one, right? And China is what the Democrats are using to scare everyone that the ports are going to be drying up and the shipments are going to stop and blah, 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 and yada, yada, yada. But I'll let you interject here before I get into the latest information we got in regards with China that may have something to do with Spain's blackout that we just saw this week. So
Yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
I just wanted to say I don't really have much to add on this part, but why is it always the fear mongers and the warmongers that always say peace? Hey, we're gonna establish peace by bombing everybody and going and going and ruining. You know what I mean? It's like you're doing the same thing that this other side that you try to claim is so bad. You're doing the same thing, but you do it with the guise of peace. Okay. All right. Understood. All right. That's all I wanted to throw out on that part.
You're right, because that's the definition of communism. If you go back through the years and look at all these communist takeovers and these communist socialist regimes that rise up, that's what they do. They take the homeless person off the street and put them in the hospital to do surgery, and they take the surgeon out of the hospital and put them on the street to be homeless. That is their mannerism. That's their forte. It's almost like that's their playbook. And why people don't realize that and remember their history. That's what this iPhone, iPad, video games, TV, television, that's what that's all about, man, is to condition people, rob their attention where well, okay, what was it? I'll have to look it up. But that's what the whole purpose when they do their riots and they pull down their statues and they pull down flags and they want to change this, change the name of that, they want to rewrite history. It's so that you don't understand, nor do you remember your past and what you physically, as a patriot would be able to do in order to defend yourself from all of this.
And I agree with that. And a good example is Gays for Palestine. You know what I mean? You're so blinded by the fact that you're convinced that it's for humanitarian aid and Gays for Palestine. We don't realize go to Palestine and see what it's like. See what it's like for you as a LGBT QSP whatever person. Go overseas and tell them that and see how they react.
Totally. And this goes back to the 16th century. There was a 16th century author by the name of Nikolai Machiavelli, and he was basically writing a book about tyranny. And one quote out of his book back in the 16th century was, "And he who becomes master of a city accustomed to freedom and does not destroy it may expect to be destroyed by it. For in rebellion, it has always the watchword of liberty and its ancient privileges as a rallying point, which neither time nor benefits will cause it to forget." So, basically, in a 2025 layman's term, whoever's calling the shots here to us who have been accustomed to freedom and they do not destroy our freedom, they know they're going to be destroyed by it. Okay? Because when we rebel, it's always the watchword of liberty and its ancient privileges as the rallying point. We can go back and look at the Revolutionary War. We can go back and look at the Civil War. We've got rallying points to go back to, but the one who is in charge, the master of this city, of people who are accustomed to freedom. If they don't destroy it, they know they're going to be destroyed by it. And that is a powerful line there, David, that this is what they're doing to all of these nations' people, their citizens, is they are destroying that knowledge of freedom. Do you agree?
No, I do. I 100% agree with what you just said.
Well, China, well, I guess this week, all of the channels were talking about this blackout where Spain just blacked out, man. And they stayed blacked out for a while. Matter of fact, you checked it, and they're what? Do you remember what percentage that they've got their power back on?
Yeah, it says 99% of Spain got their power back already, so that's good. That's a good sign.
Well, it's interesting since China's in the news and Trump is basically, all right, well, under his first term, you remember when he closed that port in Long Beach, that one section of port that was operated solely by China, he closed that port to keep them out for some reason, back then. And now the major issue is China and just hammering them with tariffs for a reason. Now, the news media, they're, of course, siding with China because, they're communist. But nonetheless, the very same day that the lights went out in China, or excuse me, the lights went out in Spain, China releases their new cable cutting weapon submarine. Okay? This thing cuts transmission cable lines that are on the ocean floor. Okay? Spain is 60% green energy now. They have offshore windmills that provide this green energy, and they send this energy from the offshore islands via these underground cables. So the very same day that the lights go out in China or in Spain, China releases their new cable cutting weapons submarine that can cut transmission lines. Not saying anything, I'm just saying that's awful convenient, right? So in the Mediterranean Sea, in the Great Sea, Spain has this interconnection. They use those cables to connect islands like Crete and Cyprus and Israel. Okay? So Spain is helping send this green energy power over to these little islands and little countries here, little nations. I wouldn't say nation, but places. Israel being one of them. Now, China hates Israel, okay? China hates Israel. China is trying to broker a deal with Spain because China has this thing that they have always had, and it is called the Silk Road, the Silk Road Project. Here's a little bit about what that is.
There's a new highway in Pakistan and a new rail terminal in Kazakhstan. A seaport in Sri Lanka recently opened, as well as this bridge in rural Laos. What's interesting is that they're all part of one country's project that spans 3 continents and touches over 60% of the world's population. If you connect the dots, it's not hard to see which country that is. This is China's Belt and Road Initiative, the most ambitious infrastructure project in modern history that's designed to reroute global trade. And it's how China plans to become the world's next superpower.
Kazakhstan.
It's 2013, and Chinese President Xi Jinping is giving a speech in Kazakhstan, where he mentions the ancient Silk Road, a network of trade routes that spread goods, ideas, and culture across Europe, the Middle East, and China as far back as 200 BC.
Okay, so China has this transportation road, this Silk Road, where they are able to move all of their goods, all of these places, right? And now, here we have Spain doing pretty much the same thing with their underground cables. Are you with me? And as part of this, here we have this going on, and Spain goes dark. I don't know why. We haven't been told yet, but it's interesting that, China displayed their transmission line cutting submarine. And China hates Israel. China's trying to expand, their Silk Road up through Spain and all that. But now they find out, well, wait a minute. Spain's been secretly supporting Israel, and China hates Israel. Now, there was a little bit of money involved in Spain's little, what you call it, cable system that come to find out that sections of Siemens, you remember Siemens AG, as the preferred bidder for the award of the contract of PCI 3.10 Euro Asia Interconnector VSC HVDC converters. So Siemens here, that has been in the news a few weeks or a few months ago, Siemens was the preferred bidder for the reward, the contract to aid in this line system that Spain is all about. Also, Siemens allegedly signed Israel boycott contracts with Turkish railways. This coming out of the German media, okay? So is that railway that Siemens, that company, allegedly signed, that Israel boycotted the rail to Turkish, was that part of the Silk Road? I'm just asking questions is all I'm doing, okay? Because Spain has canceled arm deals with Israel under political pressure, but holds 1 billion euros in weapon system contracts. Can't be having that, right? Okay. With that being said, Spain approves nearly 300 renewable power projects with an $18 billion investment. I wonder where that investment came. I wonder where that bid of that money, that Siemens was the preferred bid. Could it be Siemens that donated the money? Because it's interesting, about a month ago, if you remember, there was this Siemens boss. He was Siemens executive August Bar and his family. They came over to New York to sightsee in New York. And remember, they got into a helicopter, and this helicopter just fell apart in midair and crashed in the Hudson, and they were all killed. That's pretty convenient, man.
Well,
Go
and
ahead.
well, for me, everything that you just brought up is relevant and is a good example of the case that you're building here. But I just want to throw something out there. One of the most suspect things for me when it comes to what Spain is claiming is they are claiming that the reason that the power outage happened is because of a rare essentially it's from the sun. Okay, the sun did a flare that was so powerful and so uncommon that it knocked their power grid out, and that's what caused it. Okay, guys, I'm just gonna tell you I don't believe it. Okay, I do not believe that story at all whatsoever. I believe it is a cover up. Now, like Greg said, we don't know for sure. Okay, and all of these things definitely are relevant information, but they're definitely covering something up, right? There's definitely things going on that they don't want us to know about, whether it be maybe they purposely cut it off to set the alarm for, oh, all these nations rely on us for power, and now they're realizing that without us they don't have power, or the line being cut, whatever the situation might be here. There's definitely cover-ups happening. Okay, so in their involvement with China is huge. It tells a big story. And also, the reason BRICS fell apart, we have to be honest, was a lot to do with Russia and China. So who knows what's going to happen China might end up burning themselves on the World Trade Forum, essentially, because part of the reason we don't want to trade with them anymore is because they don't play by the rules in their own country. They'll go to your country and play by your rules, but they won't come to when you try to trade in China. You cannot play by Spain rules or USA rules. You have to play by China rules. So who knows? They might end up shooting themselves in the foot in the long term here. But yeah, I agree with you, Greg. I think there's cover up happening. I think there's deceit happening and things going on behind the scenes that will come to light. Hopefully in the near future. That's what I hope.
That's perfect. I totally agree with you, man. And here's why. Because we don't really know what's going on. And I guess the focus of the light that I want to shine on is we are seeing Trump now battling with China, doing so via tariffs right now. But he obviously knows something that we don't in regards to China, and he is trying to get China in check. So I'm wondering, as we title the show "Posturing," not that any of this has anything to do with the other in regards to, them showing their latest submarine in the Spain blackout. I'm just showing what are the odds. That's like Lou Gehrig's getting Lou Gehrig's disease, man. What's the odds of that?
And
But
well, go ahead, Greg.
no, you go ahead.
Well, are we going to touch on the that British researcher? Are we going to touch on that today, or do we want to save that for another show? Because that's actually that we could go on for that for quite a while.
Well, I tell you what, man, let's hit on that right now because I was fixing to go to that portion. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, okay. So British researcher, say that 3 times fast, claims he's found tomb of Jesus below Great Pyramids of Giza. Okay, I'm going to repeat that for you guys. British researcher claims he's found tomb of Jesus below Great Pyramids of Giza. Okay, this was published April 2025 on the 20th. Okay, so not long ago at all. A British researcher has made the bombshell claim that he has located Jesus Christ's tomb below the Great Pyramids of Giza. Anthropologist Dr. Paul Warner, or Varner, however you say it, who insists he isn't religious, has shared proof of his findings to the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities. He first presented his 10-year research project to the Director of Science Office in 21. Okay, so you guys kind of get the idea. Okay, so he actually took a picture of where he claims to have found not only the sarcophagus of Jesus Christ, but also the Ark of the Covenant. Okay, and in this picture, it is a very, very, very small room. Okay, imagine if somebody built like a 10-foot by 10-foot concrete enclosement, essentially, like a little cave. That's what it looks like. Very small, very tight. And he is claiming that it was at the bottom of the Giza pyramid. So, Greg, I'll go ahead and let you go on the biblical aspects of what we're about to talk about.
So he's claiming to find the body of Jesus in a Giza pyramid in a small chamber of sort. And we know the pyramids are out in the desert. And if he's inside or under the pyramid in a small cavity, a chamber, here we have out in the desert in a chamber claiming to find the body of Christ. And if we go into Matthew 24, verse 26, it tells us, wherefore, okay, Matthew 24 altogether is the chapter of the end time signs, of the wars, rumors of wars, pestilence, earthquakes, the cliche signs that we always talk about. That is the chapter. But if you read on down, it says in verse 26, wherefore, if they shall say unto you, behold, he, meaning Christ, is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, if he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. So here we have in the last days signs chapter telling us if they say he's in the desert, don't believe it. If they say he is in a small chamber, do not believe it. And this British scientist says that he has found Christ not only in the desert, but in a chamber below the Giza pyramid, right? Adding to the fact that these are the signs that we are seeing, the wars, the rumors of wars, and now Christ being in a desert in a confined space. Let's move up a few chapters. A few verses here, because it says in verse 23, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. Right? For there shall rise false Christs and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. And then it goes on to say that, if they say Christ is in the desert and blah, blah, blah. But he actually said it twice. The first one, though, he said, as we had covered, was, then if any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. I know, we've had all kinds of people say, I am the reincarnated Christ. Even Charles Manson said at one time he was. We have seen them go to and fro. But we have a new one now. His name is Abdullah from the Middle East. And he is saying that he is a faction. He is a faction of Christ. He is the spokesperson for Christ to God, right? Check this out.
I am Abdullah, the successor of Imam al-Mahdi alayhi salam, the successor of Muhammad, the successor of Jesus Christ. I am the true and legitimate Pope, O Christians in the East and the West. Hear me and obey. I am a messenger sent to you from Jesus Christ alayhi salam. Paul is false and led you astray. The church is corrupt and no longer upholds the law of God, nor does it defend the oppressed. The papacy has been stolen and the rightful heir has been pushed aside. There is no one else but me that you are obliged to obey. May God be a witness that I have proclaimed.
All right. Now, I am not trying to give glory to the Pope in any way, but I find it ironic, just as I did with Spain going dark and China revealing a cable-cutting submarine. I find it ironic that the Pope dies and this guy surfaces, right? He's saying he is the successor of all of these different gods, right? That he is the successor of Jesus Christ also. And that he's telling us that everything of Paul's teaching is wrong. All right? Well, what did God say in his word? Many false prophets will arise. Many will claim that they are Christ and deceive many, right? But what did he say before that? If any man shall say unto you, lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. So not only in this very week do we not only have two verses playing out, we've got the third one with them saying they found Christ's body in a desert in a chamber, right? So let's break this down, shall we? He is the successor of Jesus Christ, right? No, sir. The Bible plainly states that there is only one true way to God, and that is through Jesus Christ, correct? He is the living water. There is no successor. There will be no successor. Christ is the only way to God the Father. The only way. Not only that, he is not a successor, he is an intercessor. He intercesses for us to God, Jesus Christ. So this man, whoever this Abdullah is a false prophet coming out right at the time the Pope dies to deceive many. The deception is just out there. So, folks, we have got to be aware. Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
We have
Amen, brother. Amen.
to be aware that This is how tight, this is how strong the devil is trying to move in this. And so let's back away now. Okay? Let's back away to the title of the show. There is this movement. There is this one world movement. I don't know what it is. We know it's the Antichrist, the beast system, but if I had to pinpoint, is it the military industrial complex, the Democrat? I don't know. But I can tell you right now, from an Antichrist beast system mode, the moves are being made, and strong delusion and strong deception is coming forth. And we have got to be aware of these things and not allow ourselves to be manipulated. Now, in saying that, David, man, I don't know how old you were. It was 2010, maybe 2000.
In 2010, I was 11 years old. So,
Okay, well, you probably don't remember this then. But let me share some detail with the listeners. Egypt never really has been hand in glove with Israel, okay? But they had a president that for 30 years, I mean, they weren't best buddies, but he was very good to Israel. I'll just say that, okay? He was very good. And his name slips my mind, but forgive me, you can look him up. But if they had to go out into the Sinai Desert and go after their enemy or their terrorist or whatnot, he would call up Israel and be like, "Yo, man, hey, listen, I just want to let you know, we've got about a platoon of terrorists out there in the Sinai Desert. We're going to send so many tanks and so many aircraft. We're going to go out there and deal with them, and then we're going to turn right around. We're going to come back. We're not threatening you. We're not coming after you. I just wanted you to know." And Israel was like, "Okay, that's cool, man." And that president would send the military out and do exactly what he told Israel they would do, and then they would come back. So they had a respect. They had a mutual respect, but they just, weren't full buddies. So, well, then we had Obama come along. Now, I could break this down, David, which I won't because I've done several shows on it, but the Isaiah 19 prophecy, everything that Isaiah prophesied about the burden of Egypt that happened when Obama came in will literally blow your mind, okay? Here's what happened. So Obama began and rose up this Arab Spring where all of these Arabs in the Muslim world went out and just started conquering, cutting heads, and ISIS, and you remember all of that, and started conquering all of these nations that were surrounding Israel. And of course, they were wanting to come in and take Israel, one of which countries was Egypt, okay? Egypt was one of them. And this president that was president for 30 years that was getting along with Israel, they forcefully not only removed him, but they removed his cabinet. Now, let me just share something with you here. Let me go to Isaiah 19 for a moment. They removed this president, and Obama and his crew installed a man by the name of Mohammed Morsi. Okay? Mohammed Morsi was installed as the replacement of this president that they had moved. Now, Mohammed Morsi hated Christians. He was hardcore Muslim, man. He was as Muslim as you could get. And so Obama's crew goes in and they totally remove this president and they put in Mohammed Morsi. I'm looking for Isaiah 19 here. Okay. And not only did they remove the president, man, they removed his entire council, his entire cabinet, and they put this cruel, hardcore Muslim, Mohammed Morsi, in power. And the first thing Mohammed Morsi started doing is slaughtering Christians and Jews, and the whole ISIS thing flared up in Egypt. And it was for entertainment. This Mohammed Morsi would have ISIS bring Christians to his palace and execute them on his front lawn. This is how evil this man was. And Isaiah 19 says, the burden of Egypt, behold, the Lord rideth upon a swift cloud, and shall come into Egypt, and the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. When this Arab Spring began, the first thing that they did when they came into Egypt is they removed all of the idols that they worshiped, all these false gods and all that. They stole them from the city and they removed all of the idols. Interestingly enough, it says here in the word that the idols of Egypt shall be moved at his presence. So not only were they moved, but at that very time, there was one Egyptian statue, David, that was in a museum in Europe that had a security camera on it so that no one would take it. And in the course of 12 hours, you know, they did the speed up video. Over a course of 12 hours, this statue on its own did an about face and turned 180 degrees within 12 hours. The same time this was going on. So not only were the idols stolen from Egypt, but that very Egyptian idol in that museum moved on its own. All right, it goes on and it says, and the heart of Egypt shall melt in the midst of it, and I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. There we had the Arab Spring began, one against another, because nobody really knew who was against who, because they all were the same. They all looked the same, right? But ISIS was coming in, going after, and the Bible says, against the neighbor and against the city. And the spirit of Egypt shall fail in the midst thereof, and I will destroy the counsel thereof. Listen. I will destroy the counsel thereof, and they shall seek to the idols and to the charmers and to them that have familiar spirits. Why is that so? He mentioned 3 types of idols: charmers, and the familiar spirits, and to the wizards. There was 3 idols that were left in Egypt that were not taken. And the people were so distraught during this Arab Spring, they didn't know what to do, and they went out into the city and started worshiping these 3 idols. It happened. Verse 4, and the Egyptians will I go over in the land of a cruel lord. Excuse me. I will give over into the hand of a cruel Lord, and a fierce king shall rule over them, saith the Lord. So he comes in here and he says, I'm going to come into Egypt. It's going to be brother against brother in all this. I'm going to remove the entire council of Egypt, and I will replace it with a cruel and fierce king. And Mohammed Mursi was put into power, and for 3 years he started slaughtering Christians and Jews. Now, why do I say this? We know what happened with Egypt later on after the 3 or 4 years, whatever it was. General Sisi was the general in the Egyptian army then that had had enough, and he broke rank. He didn't follow Mohammed Mursi. He came in with his boys, and he dealt with the situation, and he started eradicating ISIS, and he himself took Mohammed Mursi out of power and put him in prison. And to my knowledge, Mohammed Mursi is still in prison today. And now General Sisi is the president of Egypt. Prophecy happened right in front of our eyes exactly the way the Bible said it would. Now, why do I even bring that up? Because it has nothing to do with what I'm about to go into. But we've been having a problem with Syria. We know that the Syria prophecy has happened, or in the process of happening. Amos chapter 1, Amos chapter 1, Jeremiah chapter 49, Isaiah, they all prophesied the destruction of Damascus, and we're seeing it happen before our very eyes, knowing good and well Damascus has not totally been destroyed. I mean, it's been through battles and been tore all to pieces, but to be in the shape it's in now, it's never happened in world or biblical history. So we know these prophecies are taken. So much so that when the Arab Spring hit Syria, back in Amos's day, that area was called Assyria, with an A, Assyria, right? And the little country beside it was called Kir, K-I-R, Kir. Today, that little country beside Syria is called Jordan. But when Amos prophesied this destruction of Damascus, he said, once this destruction that I'm telling you about happens, that the people of Assyria will exile to Kir. And when this Arab Spring happened and it hit Egypt and it hit all these nations that bordered Israel, when it hit Damascus and Damascus started being turned into a ruinous heap, 2.5 million Syrians exiled into Jordan. Factual. You can look it up. Point being, we know that Allah Assad was the president of Syria and has been forever. But here recently, Allah Assad has been removed from power. They now have a new Syrian president. Al-Sharara merged al-Nusra with organizations from Hayat Tahrir in 2017. And anyway, you look up this new president. He's a bad dude, man. He's hardcore Muslim. He's just like Mohammed Mursi. He's hardcore, man. He's fought against Americans in this Arab Spring War. He was a Rambo of the Muslim radical deal. And he's now president of Syria, just like Mohammed Mursi. And so now we are waiting. We have to keep our eye on him because he hates Israel and it will be going against Israel. We're seeing the players, it looks like, starting to take the field of what the prophecy said would happen, right? Here's something interesting. If you go into Isaiah 17, and we're just about ready to wrap this up, but if we go into Isaiah 17 starts giving the prophecy of Damascus, just like Amos did, just like Jeremiah has. But when we go into Isaiah 17, Isaiah talks about all of these little towns, you can read it for yourself, that are in the news today. Some of these towns are still called the same name, and it's crazy when you hear this destruction is going to happen to this city, and this type of destruction is going to happen to that city, and then you read it in the Bible, and that's exactly what Isaiah says is going to happen. He says that Damascus is going to be turned into a ruinous heap. We know Damascus has never been officially a ruinous heap until we're starting to see the signs of that today. But I want to move on down to verse 14. Let's see, where is it at? Let's see. Anyway, in Isaiah chapter 17, you can read it for yourself. At some point, there it is, Isaiah 17, verse 14. The whole prophecy of Damascus in Isaiah 17 is its destruction, it being turned into a ruinous heap. But at verse 14, it says, "And behold, at evening tide, there is trouble, and before the morning he is not. This is the portion of them that spoil us, and the lot of them that rob us." So Damascus, Syria, is going to be turned into a ruinous heap, but it will still remain a percentage of a functioning city. But something is going to happen later, because Isaiah says that at sundown it will be a city, and at sunrise it shall be no more. That portion of the prophecy of Damascus we have not seen yet. So I bring you to this. Now they have a Mohammed Mursi style president that has taken over control of Syria. Israel ain't playing. We have Trump in the White House now who ain't playing and is backing Israel with an ironclad fist. We can see it. We can see the bombers, the B-2 bombers being loaded at Diego Garcia with tactical nukes, getting ready. We're seeing warships getting surrounding Iran's borders here. We just had a major explosion happen on the southwest coast of Iran this week. A major explosion that was underground. We have no idea what caused that. Was it from Israel? Was it from us? Was it an accident? I don't know. But the southwest corner of Iran, back when it was Persia in Jeremiah's day, that southwest corner was called Elam. And Jeremiah says in Jeremiah 49, the Lord said, behold, I will break the bow of Elam, the chief of their might. We know when it says bow, spears, or whatever, it's weapons. What is the chief weapon of Persia, of Iran today? It would be nuclear. And all of their nuclear facilities now are built in the actual southwest corner in the ancient area of Elam. So we know that is coming. That God's going to break the bow of Elam. So what I'm trying to tell you folks is there is a movement happening. Wars and rumors of wars. We're seeing earthquakes. We're seeing everything that we can see. There is a posturing that is building up. And tonight, David and I just wanted to come on here and share with you the things that the media, they're only telling you the weather. We're trying to tell you which way the wind's blowing. But the fact of the matter is, you got to get your life right, man. You got to be looking to the Lord to get us through this, because deception, evil, attacks, you name it, is coming. So, David, I hand it to you, brother. I'll let you tie a ribbon on all of it.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything you just said. You know, make sure you're, you know, going to church, but not just church in, you know, the typical sense, you know, church as in talk with your friends, talk with your peers about what's going on, what you think's happening. Kind of pick their brains and see what they think about the situation. You might come away realizing something that you hadn't originally thought of, right? We hope everybody learned something from this show. This is the longest one Greg and I have done, I believe, ever. So, yeah, thank you to Greg. Thank you, you guys. We really hope you not only learned something, but were entertained and enjoyed the show that we put on for you today. We hope everything actually made sense. You know, we draw a lot of real life comparisons to things that we want to compare to the Bible, and not only compare, but show you why we're saying what we're saying, because it's already spoken of, right? Um, so just all of that to say, thank you guys. We hope you continue to come back, because we have a lot more. You know, this stuff is ramping up day by day. By the last show that we did, the majority of these things had not happened. The majority of these things had not broken down in the way that they have very recently. This is all happening very fast. So, and I'm sure next week we're gonna have a bunch of stuff to cover too that we did not see coming, or maybe we saw the writing on the wall, like with what Greg's talking about with the Chinese submarine that is able to cut power lines, right? And we typically keep the sermon, the biblical aspects. We normally keep them throughout. But today we left them towards the end because they like I said earlier, a lot of things are happening really quickly, uh, to the point where it's actually kind of hard to keep up with. Greg and I, we both got notes before we come on this show, right? And his notes look completely different than than my notes, but we're still able to tie it all in together and paint a picture for you guys to see what we're talking about, why we're saying what we're saying, and we don't want to alarm anybody, right? Because um, all of us are God. I would say 99% of people who are watching the show, if not 100%, are God fearing Christians. So I wouldn't say that we are alarmed, right? The returning of our Lord and Savior is not a bad thing by any means whatsoever. So just keep that in mind. Do not get worried. Do not get anxious. And we're going to be here to guide you through all of these current events that are going on, and like Greg said earlier, other shows they'll tell you the weather, but we're telling you which way the wind's blowing, the direction that the wind's blowing. We try to be a little bit more in depth and give you more things to actually base things on. So, yeah, I'll give it back to you.
All right. Well, I tell you, we got a few people on the prayer list. Need prayer for Sister Tracy, who just reconnected with me, a girl I went to school with. Pray for her and her issues. Brother Tim, ham radio operator buddy of mine, he and his wife, Karen, listen, they've come down with pneumonia and sickness, and he had to go to the hospital, but talked to him today. He's out. Prayers for those two. And I gotta give a shout out, man. I was tickled to death, David. You know old Duckett, right?
Oh yeah, we know Duckett.
Well, you know his. Have you ever heard him talk about his friend Robert?
I have not.
Well, Robert drives for a company around the corner from us, and Robert is an avid listener to the program. Super nice guy. I've heard Duckett talk about him just ad nauseum. And I happened to be unloading the other day up the road about 30 miles, and won't say where, but I just got backed into a dock and just got laid down in my bunk. Somebody's knocking on my door, and I roll the window down and look out thinking it was a guy going to unload me. And he introduced himself. He said, "Hey, man, I'm Robert. I'm Duckett's buddy." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me, man." He was up there loading, and I was there unloading. He said, "Well, I saw your truck and that bald head jump out of there." And he said, "I've seen you on Facebook." He said, "I figured that was you." And he said, "I never got to meet you." So anyway, man, we stood out there and talked and talked and talked. And it was just so awesome getting to meet him. He's a great guy. Brother Robert, man, listen, man, you're awesome. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay on fire. And like to thank old Duckett for introducing us. But anyway, I got to meet old Robert, man. That was an absolute treat. So he's a good guy. All right, folks. I tell you what, man. Lord willing and the creeks don't rise, we'll be back with you next week. Hey, be in prayer for this program. Be in prayer for me. I'm making an advance in life, and I'm hoping it will establish something. But thank you, Brother Dave, for being here, and y'all don't worry. Brother Dave's gonna be a staple to this program, man. And I'm gonna tell you what, he was a little
Nervous. You can say nervous. It's fine. You can say it.
okay. Well, he's a little nervous because we're gonna go kind of deep in the biblical aspect, and I told him, I said, "Man, I guarantee you, once we get rolling, it's gonna be the best show we've ever done." I feel great about it. So.
Yeah. And thank you guys. Yeah. Thank you, SmokeHouse Studios. Thank you, listeners. We appreciate you. And till next time, we'll be back.
To talk with SmokeHouse, dial 712-770-3857. That number once again is 712-770-3857. Then dial the access code 252380, followed by the pound sign, and you will be placed in the queue.
Call in and join the show.
SmokeHouseStudios.net. God is among us. The door to the ark is slamming shut.